Hey, welcome to the channel. It's Jack, the muscle and mobility maker with Stronghold Strength and Conditioning. And today, I'm going to be showing you how to set the very foundation for healthy, strong, and capable shoulders. But before we get into it, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Saturday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine, and it doesn't get better than that. So take advantage of it. Ready? Let's go ahead and dive into this one. All right, like I said, today we're going to be looking at setting the very foundation for your shoulder health, stability, strength, and overall capability so that we can keep those shoulders as injury-proof as possibly can be. So with that said, that means we're going to be looking at the cervical and thoracic mobility that you have. And when we look at cervical and thoracic mobility, it's very important to understand that those two areas are going to directly impact the function of your shoulders. If you think of the musculature that is hanging down from your cervical spine connecting into the collarbone, which connects into also the scapula, okay? The scapula itself has connections to the cervical spine. And then from there, we also have that thoracic spinal column, which is going to impact, again, scapular mobility, the ability of those shoulder blades to move around. It's going to block retraction, depression, those types of movement. So we need to have the extension, we need to have the rotation. Those are the big ones to really allow us to keep our scapula in good health and movement overall, because from there it just continues to feed outward from that into the ball and socket of the shoulder and down the arm in other ways that it could impact us negatively. So by addressing that root of the spinal column to begin with and setting up the mobility there, we're going to positively impact how our shoulder blades can move, the stability that we can have, and the overall strength that we'll have by working from the core outward and stabilizing that. So we're going to look at some mobilities here that are going to help you address rotation of the cervical and thoracic spinal column as well as extension, and then from there you can build more strength and stability around your shoulders. Ready? Let's go ahead and take a look at them. All right, the very first one we're going to start with is a traction of the cervical spine. So what you want to do is anchor that band at about hip height on a post. You're going to place it at the base of your skull so it's cupping the back of your head, and then you're just going to interlace your fingers over the band there to keep it close together and make sure it stays on. Keep your shoulder blades rolled down and back, so you want to relax your neck as much as possible, making sure your upper traps aren't pulling up into your ears there. And then from here, we just want to work various movements. Generally, I'll start with flexion and extension, so I want to tuck my chin to my chest and then curl my head back toward my shoulder blades. I'll want to do yeses and nos, so also shaking the head, turning it side to side into the band, and also allowing it to pull my head up and just hold the weight of my head for a few seconds, and then strengthening by pulling it back down to the floor. So play with whatever movements feel good in this position and just allow it to work and relax in the position as much as possible. So nice diaphragmatic breaths, and allow yourself to settle in, work out any kinks, work those positions that feel a little bit rusty, that need some movement, and put that back into it. Next, we're going to take that same band, place it over the shoulders as if it were a towel, and now I'm going to pull it down into tension. Again, I want to be sure that I'm rolling my shoulder blades down and back into the floor as much as possible, and I'm going to work various head movements and positioning. So starting with nods, yeses and nos, and then moving chin to chest, playing with that type of movement to really feel the traction of the band pulling downward, decompressing the spine as I'm moving and allowing me to have more space to move. From there, I'm going to pin one side down, pull the other out, and I want to rotate away from the pulling arm. So I'm pulling out to about shoulder height here. You'll actually feel the band help roll your head in the opposite direction. At first, it might take a little bit of coordinating to get down, but once you have it, it moves smoothly, and the band actually assists in the rotation in that way. The last one we're going to do here is cross over the band so that the opposite hand is pulling down, and we have a little bit of a spiral action. Now with a half field goal, I want to pull that band across my jawbone to help my head rotate. Now I have my teeth lightly clenched here as I do that, and I'm making sure that I'm just keeping my mouth shut as I pull, thinking of pulling the back of the forearm to the floor or the wrist to the floor, not the knuckles. Next, we're going to get into thoracic mobility, looking at extension first here. And one of my favorites to do is load up the foam rolling position and just work out any kinks here. That load can really be beneficial in helping in the extension overall. But first of all, it's just going to be a compression that's going to help reset anything that needs reset. So first of all, I'm going to hug that kettlebell while it's on the sternum, do a pressure wave from mid-back to shoulders, back around. And then once I feel like I've got all that worked out, I'm going to try segment by segment, working the thoracic spine in extension, but keeping my abs tight so that I'm making sure that it is the thoracic spine doing the work to extend here. Next, while I have this pair out, I'll usually place that kettlebell up overhead so we can work thoracic extension in the overhead position. Usually this is a problematic one for a lot of people, which limits their shoulder ability in the overhead and usually causes issues and injuries in the long run if it's never addressed. So here I'm keeping my butt tight. I want to be fully extended, abs are engaged, and then I'm tucking my chin to my Adam's apple as I hold that kettlebell overhead. Now in the beginning you can grab the handle and work your way lower, but here is when you want to work to the floor as you gain more range of motion. Next, we're doing a little bit more thoracic extension here with the overhead bias again. So here I have my wrists wider than my elbows set up on a block on the bench or a block of some sort. So I am elevated. Now the wrist being wider than the elbows, that's important because we're working external rotation of the shoulder, which is going to help stabilize the shoulder in the overhead position. What you see me doing is flexing into the bench for 5 to 10 seconds and then dropping into the stretch a little bit deeper. So here I'm allowing my elbows to go higher. I even have to take my feet out of it to get a little more depth into the stretch itself. And I'm really focusing on allowing my chest and head to reach through to the floor after engaging each time for 5 to 10 seconds to open up that overhead range of motion some more. Lastly, you could scale this one up by adding load. The barbell works nicely because again, you can place that wrist to elbow ratio in a good external rotation position so that the elbow is narrower than the wrist, and that helps force you into a better position, more stable overhead as you're performing the mobility itself. We want to perform mobilities in good positioning. This helps us do that. Next, we're getting into thoracic rotation here. So placing a foam roller at the obliques with a band anchored low on a post. What you want to do is face away from the band, so the top side has the band at the back of the wrist. It's in between the fingers there, and I'm anchored. I have my bottom leg out front, 90 degrees at the knee and 90 degrees at the hip, and my back leg here, 90 degrees at the knee, planted on my forearm. I want to pull for 5 to 10 seconds, that band into tension, and then allow the band to pull me deeper through into the rotation. I'm going to exhale my air from my nose as I allow that band to pull me each time a little bit deeper into the rotation, separating the scapula, and then squeezing my scapula together each time I rotate away, pulling into the tension. Using a dowel or a long stick from the half kneeling position, I want to drape my arms over the dowel like a scarecrow almost here, and then I'm going to rotate toward the front leg to start. This is going to be the easier of the two positions, so I want to see how close I can plant the end of that dowel in the inside of my foot, and then from there allow that dowel to help rotate me open, looking either at the wall or up above at the ceiling as I rotate. Now the more difficult of the two is rotating away from that front leg. So here I'm planting the dowel as far away as I can from the front leg, and once again just allowing the dowel to help pull me into rotation as much as possible, If this one's challenging for you, it might take time to build up, but we can also use a load, and that's one of my favorite ways to do this to get past those sticking points is use a kettlebell, and you want to press that kettlebell and start again in the rotation that's easier, so going toward the front leg just with a windmill, so I'm reaching the hand itself. If you feel like you can go deeper, you could start to plant the hand and then allow the elbow to bend, or even try and plant the forearm, or even touch the tip of the elbow. So these are all ways that you can start to progress that range of motion that you have. It's also really beneficial because you're just loading up this rotation, so you're starting to really build good strength in this position. So you could even start with this one. It doesn't have to be a ton of weight in the beginning. It's just something that you want to make sure that you are able to get through that range of motion and build up over time. You can start to load more and more, of course, as you get stronger. So here I've switched, I got the front leg out and I'm loading so that I'm rotating away from that front leg. And again, gradually building up my range of motion and my comfort in these positions. All right, and there you have it. Where to begin to set the solid foundation for your shoulder health, strength, and overall capability. If you like this video, make sure you let me know by clicking that big thumbs up down below. And take a moment to share this one with a friend, especially if there's somebody who struggles with shoulder aches or pains and or have had a history of injury there. It is one of the most overlooked places that need to be addressed, that cervical and thoracic mobility, in order to make sure they have a solid base to begin with. So pass it along their way so they have a good understanding, make sure they don't miss out on it. If you're somebody who struggles with a training ache or injury of your own and is keeping you from training at the intensity that you wish to, and you want to have it resolved, what I want you to do right now is drop down below in the description here to fill out a coaching application and schedule a mobility blueprint call. Essentially, this is our opportunity to get on a Zoom call together so that first of all, I could take you through a bit of an assessment, gather all the information I would need to tailor a program specifically to your needs, and then from there, lay out in full details what that program would be looking like for you. So if that's something you're interested in, go down to the description right now, fill out that application, and get that call scheduled. Last but not least, if you have not already, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Saturday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine, and it does not get better than that. Welcome to the Stronghold Army. We'll see you next week.